We're back in the studio this week.
And you've got your voice back, too.
Yeah, that's true.
I lost mine, though.
Okay, great. It's it's a good thing I got mine back because we've got some important things to discuss about Obi Wan Kenobi.
Yeah, and you didn't exactly have the same reaction to part 3 that we had.
I didn't. It's taken some time for me to work through some of the things in that episode. We'll talk about that and some other things next. This is Tatooine Sons.
It's true. All of it.
What is the name of the porg on the Millennium Falcon?
Force is strong in my family.
What do you think his name is? It's a big moment.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Maybe Turbis?
Do or do not. There is no try.
Turbis? Pablo, if you're listening to this live stream, that porg's name is now Turbis. It's a good Star Wars name.
We're not done yet.
These guys recorded an awesome podcast called Tatooine Sons. Everybody was
I've only seen the first 2 episodes, but you guys have finished the whole first part.
volume.
Is it volume?
It's volume. It's volume 1.
All right.
Yeah.
Reaction to Stranger Things Stranger Things 4
Season
volume
4, volume 1.
It's Stranger Things 4 volume 1. Right.
Yeah.
All right. BB Nate, you go first.
I'm
Without
not sure
spoiling
a
it.
reaction.
Right.
I just know that for the last 40 minutes of that final episode, my jaw was on the floor the entire time.
Good or bad?
Good. I cannot express how much this season saved the show for me.
Wow.
Season 3 was season 2 was a low point. Season 3 was fun, but it started to just feel like we were forgetting what Stranger Things was, and then they hit you with this season, and it's just been
Back to its
absolutely
roots, huh?
fantastic so
Okay.
far.
Samuel the Hutt.
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of have to echo what Nathan said. At the end there, my mouth was just open by some of the reveals that were happening and stuff. I won't spoil it.
Do you need to have gone back and watched the other seasons to really pick up on what those are?
It would have helped. I've seen the previous 3 seasons, but it's been a while. And there were some gaps in my memory for sure, but I don't think anything was detrimental.
I have to say, it's not needed to go watch it again. They explain it through again. But now, if you want to rewatch it again, you will notice a lot more.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. Well, hey, I guess we should tell people what they're listening to here. Welcome to Tatooine Sons, a pop culture podcast, the only fan podcast to name a canon Star Wars creature and to be endorsed by the writer-director of The Last Jedi, Rian Johnson. We believe that pop culture is the mythology of this generation and that there is a story. It is written on our souls and that these myths speak to that story. And that is why we're asking some critical questions about the Obi Wan Kenobi series, looking more closely at some of the big news from Star Wars Celebration and getting ready for the Dark Crisis.
Yes.
Did I get it right? Mm-hmm. I got it right. All right.
Yeah.
I'm David. I'm the dad.
Hi, Dad.
I am honored to be joined every week by my 2 amazing sons. BB Nate, what you got going this week?
Well, DC Comics is never going to be the same after Dark Crisis. This isn't just one of those stingers. This is
not
true.
clickbaity.
It's not clickbait.
All right. Interesting.
Interesting.
Samuel the Hutt.
Dad, we get more Jedi Dooku.
I love Jedi
Yeah,
Dooku.
you excited?
He's like my favorite.
And it's fall to the dark side.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What about you, Dad?
Well, if I'm being completely honest, I have had some real questions and struggles after seeing the first half of Obi-Wan Kenobi. So you guys will get to help me walk through that today. Thank you so much, those of you who are listening to the show. If you're a new listener to the show, thank you for joining us. We definitely want you to know that this is your safe, positive, family-friendly.
It's a safe space.
It is a safe space for Star Wars fans, which is good. 'Cause
Rare nowadays.
We love Star Wars, and we love people that love Star Wars for real. With that, and so we're excited to have you here. If you're a returning listener, thank you so much for coming back. We are so glad that you tune in every single week, or at least most weeks. With it, we would ask you to tune in every single week. With it, but let's just do this.
Yeah,
I've got questions I need answered. And like I said, I mean, it's kind of a moment of transparency for me. I have really struggled with part 3. of Obi Wan Kenobi, and after watching it several times now, I've come to terms with most of my problems with it. But now that we've seen half the series, there are still some big questions that need to be answered.
Bulky religions and ancient weapons are no match for a good blaster at your side, kid.
Rebellions are built on hope.
Force is with me, and I am with the Force.
If you live long enough, you see the same eyes in different people.
Oh, I love her.
She's great.
I think she's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm a fan.
It's weird, though. I've been hearing different reactions. I mean, Mom said she wasn't like a huge fan of her. She said she wasn't the best actress, which I don't get. And
I
even
think for her age, she's great.
Yeah, and I think even Tristan wasn't a huge fan either, which is weird because, like, we all thought she did fantastic. Yeah. So, I don't know. Maybe it's just not for everyone.
I guess so.
As long as you aren't a jerk about it, you can have...
Yeah, that's the difference. You made, you don't have to attack a little girl. And, of course, Mom would not do that. Neither would Tristan with it. All right. So, I'm going to ask you two to be my therapists for the next 10, 15 minutes. As well as I do love my lips. Thank you for bringing that in. And you weren't even at dinner with us where we were talking about VeggieTales all
No.
night.
Wow.
That's pretty cool. VeggieTales is in our blood.
It's great.
Here. So, most of these things I've kind of dealt with, but I do want to get your guys' thoughts. And I know that there's a lot of people watching this that are in this, at different stages of this where...
Spoiler alert for anybody that has...
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, like everything is spoilers on this show.
Put that on our show. Like at the beginning, it's a spoiler there.
If Coffee with Kenobi is your spoiler-free look at Star Wars, we're the exact opposite of Coffee with Kenobi. Okay. First question. There's really no way around it. This version of Obi Wan Kenobi is different from anything that we've seen before with him. He doesn't use the Force. He was clearly reluctant to engage Vader, and his wit and charm are completely gone in this series, which forces me to ask. I'll ask you guys. I did that on purpose. Yeah, thanks. What's wrong with Obi Wan Kenobi?
Well, I mean, we've drawn parallels to this before, but it's like Luke in The Last Jedi, at the beginning of The Last Jedi. He's failed. Obi-Wan has failed horribly. He kind of blames himself for the entire downfall of everything because he trained the guy that kind of was responsible for it. So that'll kind of put you in a weird headspace, and he blames himself for that. So of course he's going to be reluctant to use the Force and be a Jedi because that he attributes that with what caused the failure. His wit and charm's gone just because he's depressed all the time. Let's be honest. His brother turned to the dark side and killed younglings and did horrible acts, and it feels like he's responsible for it. So of course he's going to be different and distraught. He's gone through a traumatic experience. I mean, it's much like he has almost PTSD in a way. I mean, I'm not trying to cheapen people who actually have gone through that, but in a way, that's what he's
in this universe, everything that he's gone through would result.
Yeah, absolutely. The nightmares he has and everything. So,
what about you? Why do you think what's wrong with Kenobi?
I think the failure of Anakin has driven him to a place he's never been to before, a place of grief, a place of fear, a place of just not knowing his place in this whole galaxy. It's difficult for him to understand what to do. He knows he's supposed to protect Luke, and that's all he has right now, and that's all he's going to do. That's what we see in episode 1. He doesn't want to leave Luke because that's all he knows how to do now is protect Luke. He has nothing else.
Do you think that he uses Luke as an excuse?
I do. I think he uses it as an excuse to not confront what he is anymore. He knows he's not a Jedi. He knows he's not following what he's lived his life doing, and he's just absolutely given up on every part of it. So he is just done, and it's something that we've seen in Luke before. We've seen even in Yoda a little bit in episode 5. This happens to Jedi who have failed. Because
it's almost the bearish vow, isn't it?
Exactly. And the thing is, the problem with the Jedi and the problem with their order, and what it's always been the problem, is that they don't think they can fail. They always think that there's good. They always think that they can succeed if good prevails. And the problem is they don't teach themselves that they're going to fail. Luke doesn't think he can fail. He got Vader back to the light side. He saved the galaxy. He's great. And then Ben turned. Yoda, who was an amazing Jedi master,
900 years old,
900, a grand master, led an entire Jedi order to fall, and he
Under
blames
his
himself
watch,
for that. Obi-Wan let the strongest
The chosen one.
Jedi Force user in the entire galaxy, the chosen one of the prophecy, he trained him to become a Sith Lord. So they need to understand that failure is a thing, and I don't think that Obi-Wan ever expected that, because even Qui-Gon was in kind of thinking that Anakin could have ever turned bad. So
Yeah, that's true.
Are you surprised that this version of Obi-Wan is the direction that they went? I think it's logical when you walk it through it like we just did. I think it feels logical that he would be in the position that he's in, but this is a very different version than the John Jackson Miller version of the Kenobi and Legends, that novel that was there. This is a very different version than the Kenobi of Twin Suns and the Kenobi of Episode 4. So something has, it's a little jarring, I think, for people if you are expecting that version of Kenobi and then you get this version. Do you understand why people would have a little bit of a struggle with it?
Yeah, it's the same reason why people struggle with Luke in The Last Jedi. It's not what we're used to seeing. We're used to seeing him be this suave, on top of it all, the hello there kind of guy. He's on top of the world, and at this point he's at his lowest. And I think it's good that they're showing this so they can show his growth as a character. I think by the end of this series, he will be the Alec Guinness Obi-Wan
Twin
that we're
Sons
used to
version.
seeing. Yeah, but he's got to come face to face with his demons.
That's the thing that's interesting, because the Twin Sons version is a Kenobi who has grown.
Yes,
he has matured. He has come to terms with who he is, and this version isn't. And so this is very jarring to go from Episode 3, Kenobi, and having Twin Sons Episode 4 Kenobi, and then have this guy in the middle.
If you think about it, the greatest Jedi are the ones that have come to terms with their failure. You have Ahsoka, who doesn't say that she is a Jedi, but she is one of the most powerful out there.
Yeah, but I rewatched her episode of The Mandalorian this week, and I do find it interesting that that episode's called The Jedi.
Yeah.
With that. All right, we could talk about this all day, but we've got four more questions to answer here. So the end of part 2 of the series reveals to Obi-Wan that Anakin Skywalker is alive and well as the Dark Lord of the Sith, Darth Vader. But for viewers who have always known this, the revelation comes with an added twist. The third sister, Reva, also knows that Darth Vader is actually Anakin Skywalker. How does she know this?
I think it comes mainly from the fact of we don't know much about the Inquisitors and their training outside of the Dark Lord of the Sith comic series that we did get, which is, again, fantastic. I don't think we can mention it enough on this podcast.
Charles Soule is the man.
He is the man. But the Darth Vader works very closely with the Inquisitors and very personally, to the point of torture, which just shows how dark Darth Vader and Anakin Skywalker has gotten over the years. But it's not surprising to the fact of Emperor Palpatine also used the Inquisitors to train Vader, even in that comic series.
That's true. Yeah.
So the fact of, I do think that Palpatine was the one that told them that, because then they can use that against him. And the thing is, it can also help the Inquisitors learn how to train, because all the Inquisitors are past Jedi. And so to look at Anakin Skywalker, the Dark Lord of the Sith, as a past Jedi, could help them reach their full potential as a Sith Lord.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's all that weird to... No. I mean, when you're working so closely with Vader, it's different if you're just an Imperial officer. You know, like these guys are trained directly under Vader, and they're his, quote-unquote task force in a way. I don't think it would be hard for it would be outside the realm of possibilities for them to be told it, or for them to just come to that conclusion on their own. I mean,
Tarkin did.
Thrawn obviously did.
Yeah,
I mean,
Thrawn, this is true.
He's a genius. But I think if you have enough experience they can figure it out pretty easily, especially when you're going to be working so closely with him. So
I often wonder if, I'm of the opinion, I think you guys are too, that the opening scene of the series is, Order 66 in the temple, and you've got the Padawans. The first Padawan you see could easily be Reva.
I think so.
I'm almost 100% sure.
I'm wondering if she doesn't see Anakin Skywalker in the temple killing the younglings.
That very well could happen.
And so she knows Anakin Skywalker becomes Darth Vader.
Yeah.
With this, and maybe even she sees Kenobi in there and some of the stuff going on with that. I think that's part of the story that's going on here. We don't really understand her obsession with Kenobi yet, but I think it has to do with something.
I also think that her hate of Kenobi very well could come from the hologram he sent out warning all the Jedis to stay away. She could feel like Obi-Wan abandoned her.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah.
Okay. All right, next one. Fans of the Clone Wars got an added treat in this last episode when Obi Wan Kenobi learned that his friend Quinlan Vos was alive and well and helping Jedi and Force-sensitive younglings find refuge from the Empire. While Vos has long been teased as being alive, this is the first official confirmation of it. Do we see Quinlan Vos in this series before it ends?
I thought he died at the end of Dark Disciple.
No, he does not die.
He does not.
It's canon, and he did not die. He did not die.
But Asajj did, right?
Asajj dies.
Okay. I don't know if we see it in this series. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they can find a way to make it fit, but I feel like I almost don't want to see any other Jedi in this series other than like Qui-Gon, but obviously that's different because
we all want to see Qui-Gon.
Right. I want this to be Obi-Wan on his own trying to figure this out. Would I be disappointed if they brought in Quinlan Vos? Absolutely not. But I think it's better for the character and better for his development for him to go it alone. Now, could this be a way for them to set up something in the future? Sure. And I think that'd be great because he was a super fun character in the Clone Wars. But I think in this series, he needs to be Kenobi by himself.
That's an interesting idea. What about you, BB Nate?
I don't think we see him in this series, just judging by how even Deborah Chow said this was going to be focused more on one character, like Joker, like Logan. I think that it would just kind of take away a lot from Obi-Wan if we had a big character show up, like a big cameo, like we always get in every single Disney Plus, Mando, or Marvel show. We need to have... It's centered on Obi-Wan because there is a lot of story to tell with Kenobi. You don't need to add a cameo. There is so much we need to know, and there is so much more we need to...
And if you want wow factor for the series, which we're already going to get...
We already got.
We're just have Obi-Wan and Vader just duke it out like crazy. So, that's all the wow factor you need. You don't need to bring in a cameo.
And so
we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I think that what they need to do is have this reference there and keep it so that they can... set it, like Sammy said, set up something in the future that Quinlan is still around, available for another series. Maybe if they do a season 2 of Kenobi, you stick him in there. Maybe that's the plot of season 2 or something like that. But
I do think it's interesting, though, that we've got in canon now that Quinlan Vos is rescuing Jedi and Force-sensitive children. Do you think Quinlan Vos is who got Grogu out of the temple?
I don't. It's possible, but I also am wondering.
Doesn't he use a green saber?
I don't remember.
I'm also wondering if we see Quinlan Vos show up maybe in Jedi Survivor.
That would be
cool. That they're doing the same thing.
Yeah, that would actually be a good fit.
Is looking for Force-sensitive Jedi children, and so is Quinlan Vos now.
All right. It'll be interesting to see. All right, question for fans of Star Wars Rebels. We're shocked by the ending of Part 2 when Reva ran the Grand Inquisitor through with a Sith blade. When the shock wore off, most fans were able to come to grips with this, believing they would see the character return in later episodes. But time has created some angst about this, and new theories have arisen suggesting that this Grand Inquisitor is not the same one that we see in Rebels. I'll start with you, BB Nate. Is the Grand Inquisitor really dead?
No. People, patience. Like Kenobi said, patience. And then Anakin. But I think that people just need to wait. I think that there is so much that could go on. It just set up the way to get Reva, whatever her name is, how you ever pronounce it, her out of the way at the end of the series. Kenobi's not going to kill her. I think that people that think that is absolutely insane because that's just not the Jedi way. Like Anakin says, in episode 3 and all that stuff, and then immediately kills Count Dooku after that. But I think that we need to understand that Kenobi isn't going to be the one to kill Reva. It's not going to be Vader. it's going to be the Grand Inquisitor. It's going to be, he's on a planet with people who perform weird spice labs and crime.
Could be doing mods.
Yeah, it wouldn't be surprised if there's a mod
could do
parlor.
a mod parlor there. And that isn't that bad of a cut.
Well, it wasn't you that went through it.
But the thing is, we've seen that happen so many times in so many of these shows and movies and everything. And he could have different types of organs because he's a different alien species. They've used that excuse before. I just think that we need to wait. He's going to come back, and out of pure rage, he's going to kill Reva and just become the Grand Inquisitor that we see in Rebels. He's been like that, but he's going to be insanely more menacing.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't think it's a different Grand Inquisitor. That's silly. Why would they go through the effort of making the exact same costume, exact same like shapes on his head, all that, for it just to be a different character? That's silly. It is the Grand Inquisitor that we see in Rebels. He's not dead. He'll be fixed up just fine. Sure, it sucks, but good Lord, we saw Maul get cut in half. This is, comparatively, like you said, Nate, this is nothing. So I think he will come back, and I think Nathan makes a great point. He's going to hunt down Reva. He's pissed, rightfully so. He's going to turn the other Inquisitors over to Reva. She's basically gone rogue at this point. I mean, she was there with Vader at the.
She's a part of the Inquisitors in part 3.
When it comes out that she was the one who killed the Inquisitor, which it will, he'll come crawling back and be like, yo, she did this, and everybody's going to be upset with her.
Because nobody likes her.
Right. So I think that's what we'll end up seeing.
Nobody likes her in universe, I think is what you're saying.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
So I think that's where this is going.
Well, it's interesting because Joby Harold, one of the writers for Obi Wan Kenobi, did an interview with Anthony Bresenkin at Vanity Fair this week about this. She made a couple quotes about this. She says, as you know, we would never break canon. So that's all I'll say. And then she laughed for a bit. And she said, canon is everything. We all know where we're going in the show from previous films and TV shows. So anytime you can undercut that, pull the rug on that, have a reversal, she's saying that's a fun thing to be able to do.
Yeah.
She also went on, she said, I was sitting with Rupert Friend, who plays the Grand Inquisitor. She's talking about at the Kenobi premiere, which we got to be at. Yeah. She says, I was sitting with Rupert Friend, who plays the Grand Inquisitor. I was right in front of him when it happened, and we talked about it beforehand. I was like, how's this going to be? It was an audible gasp. Rightfully so. We were gasping. The people were not expecting that at all. That was quite gratifying because that's the intention to show. It begins with the Grand Inquisitor grandstanding and enjoying the sound of his own voice. I don't think we anticipate the voice suddenly be cut off as it was.
Yeah, that's exactly what they were going for, and that's exactly what it did. And immediately, I was shocked, like everybody was. But then a couple seconds later, I was kind of like, okay, they're going to figure this out. I 100% believe that they will, because I honestly don't think Dave Filoni would let them do that.
Oh, yeah.
Because he appreciates the work that he's put into his shows too much for them to just be like, oh, we're going to break your canon real quick.
Now, it's different if something like a show breaks the canon of like a book or a comic a little bit. That's a little bit different. But when it breaks the canon of a show, like a physical,
one that's being so central to the
that's
future,
where things can get pretty iffy, and they wouldn't do that.
Yeah. All right, last one. The battle between Obi-Wan and Vader has been billed in the lead up to the show as epic and unlike anything we've seen before. But the confrontation in part 3 was anything but epic. It was kind of hard to watch, as Vader simply toyed with a version of Obi-Wan that was disconnected from the Force and completely unmatched. And since this was only the midpoint of the series, I think it's safe to conclude, or you guys agree, that Obi-Wan and Vader will battle again?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're going to get throughout the next few episodes, at some point we'll get a Rocky level training montage, I'm sure, and Obi-Wan will get back to his former self, if not even better in a way, and Obi-Wan and Vader will meet again. Obviously he's got to still find Leia because she's with Reva now,
from her.
So he's not done with his job, so I think he's gonna have to meet up with Qui-Gon and go after Leia, and that will result in him confronting Vader again, at which point I think he has to best Vader to make episode 4 make sense.
Yeah. Okay.
Because at this point, like you said, he was being toyed with, and I thought it was great the way they handled that, because Nate and I in the lead up to this show were talking about how Vader fights different in this, and they just showed that right. He was just stronger. He was using one hand the whole time, flinging Obi-Wan around, and they portrayed that perfectly. But I think we're going to see Obi-Wan, if not match or best Vader in the finale of the series.
I do think
season.
I do think we see Obi-Wan and Vader battle again. It's almost a certainty. I do wonder where the battle is going to be, how it's going to take place, and everything. But I am excited to see what they do with it and how they portray it. Either way it works out, I'm excited to see how they tie it into the story, because it is, concerning with episode 4. It just feels like what they're trying to do is increase the shock factor of the canon breaking, or almost breaking, that they're trying to do. So I don't know how they'll fix it, but I have complete faith that they will.
Yeah, I don't think they take episode 4 lightly, and that confrontation lightly. They had that in mind when they were making this series.
I had to think so, and that was what I struggled the most with after this episode.
You did.
Was those opening lines about where Vader says to Ben Kenobi in episode 4, the last time we met, you were the master.
I was the learner.
And now I'm the master, that kind of thing. And that's not what we got in this by any means. But here's the other thing I noticed as I watched it. Literally, I watched that scene like 6 times in the last week, or last 4 or 5 days. The battle in the part 3 battle between Kenobi and Vader.
Okay.
With it, Kenobi never fights him.
No,
Kenobi never wants to confront him.
Terrified.
He is shell shocked.
Yeah.
In this, he is terrified. He's still processing the fact that Anakin is even alive in this.
He just saw the things that he did.
He cannot grasp this. He is on his heels the entire time, just wanting to help Leia get away and keep Vader from the villagers, and he doesn't know what else to do.
Yeah.
And so he is reeling the entire time. And this is going to lead to Vader being overly confident in the next battle. With this, here's what I think I even told BB Nate about this. My theory is going to happen. I think in the next ones, he is right now. Obi Wan Kenobi is badly injured from the fires.
Yeah.
In that, which is awesome, right? In episode 5, it's at the moment where Luke is almost at his death on Hoth, that he has his first vision of Ben Kenobi. It's like his senses are so weakened that he's able to almost become one with the Force himself and have that vision of Ben. I think this is where Obi-Wan Kenobi is right now. He is so injured that this will be
spiritually and physically.
Yeah, this will allow him to finally commune with Qui-Gon at this point. I think that's what's going to happen in this next episode. I think Qui-Gon is going to convince him that there's still good in Anakin.
Yep.
And I think that Qui-Gon is going to convince him that he has to reconnect with the Force.
And
he can't pretend like he's not connected to the Force.
Give me a 45-minute episode of Qui-Gon teaching Obi-Wan some more.
Well, anything
like Karate Kid.
I don't want to. I want it to be very spiritual and cerebral.
That's what I was wanting. I wasn't wanting a Rocky montage. I was wanting, like a conversation, a teaching moment.
Because he doesn't need the physical training.
No. Like the two of them on the Force, in the Force plane almost.
Yeah.
Like having conversations, like with
in the world between worlds,
in like that kind of like some kind of a in between world.
Obi-Wan goes to some ancient temple somewhere.
Something like that. But he's injured and he's got to recover from those injuries. I think that's this next episode. With that, at that point, he's got to pursue and go find Leia, and then from that point forward, you're going to see the confrontation in the final episode. And I think that Obi-Wan Kenobi is going to take Darth Vader to school again. It's going to be so overly matched, just like Ben and Maul in Twin Sons. Maul was overmatched every step of that battle. And I think it's going to be...
It was over before it began.
It was. And I think it's going to be like that. And that is what allows for Vader to say, the last time we met, you were the master and I was the apprentice. I think it's going to be that. I also think that Obi-Wan's going to try to pull Anakin back again, and it's not going to work with that.
No.
All right. So I guess it's time. We need to address something that happened in Star Wars related to this show. So it's a good time for a dad moment.
I am your father.
So this past week, the Star Wars community was once again forced to address racism towards one of its actors, Moses Ingram, who plays the third sister, Reva, in Obi Wan Kenobi. She shared a series of horribly racist direct messages she received from those claiming to be Star Wars fans.
Unquote.
Right. The official Star Wars social media accounts broke from previous precedent and actually called out these fans. And then even Ewan McGregor himself shared a video on social media stating that anyone sending racist messages to Ingram isn't a real Star Wars fan. This isn't the first time that this type of thing has happened. John Boyega and Kelly Marie Tran both faced similar treatment, and then it happened in the prequels as well with Ahmed Best and others. Mm-hmm. Words fail me to describe how this makes me feel. It is disgusting that these actors have to go through this, and Star Wars social media accounts and Ewan should be commended for standing 100%. With Moses against this. People can dislike this show and a character all that they want, but racist messages cannot be part of what these creators have to deal with. A few words on our podcast or on our social media aren't going to change anything, but we join with Ewan and the rest of the Star Wars community to say we stand with Moses.
Yep. 100%. Yeah.
All right. And back to Star Wars. In all reality, these are these questions that we've addressed. These are the types of questions that we should be asking halfway through a series.
Right.
If this was a movie, this is the type of stuff you want unanswered halfway through a movie. So we've got another 3 hours of content coming, most likely, hopefully, maybe even more. That will almost certainly answer these questions. So we'll be getting those here starting tomorrow.
Dang, that's crazy.
With that, that's going to be awesome. All right.
Good segment.
Thank you. Appreciate it, gentlemen. The Fandom Menace bad news time. The Fandom Menace is getting more attention than they deserve. James Earl Jones isn't being replaced, no matter what you might read. And while Top Gun might get a series in the future, I wouldn't count on it based on the site that's reporting it. That's next on Bad News.
Well, you want the bad news? Or the really bad news?
All right, fans disapprove of Obi Wan Kenobi and Kathleen Kennedy's Star Wars.
Wow, that's not new at all.
That's so original.
A new visitor to our bad news segment this week, Cosmic Book News.
Wow, that's oddly similar to something else.
Yeah, it is claiming that the Obi Wan Kenobi series is a complete and utter disaster. The site is referencing the show's Rotten Tomatoes score, which has been deliberately sabotaged.
The fan score, by the way.
Right. But it has been deliberately sabotaged by members of the toxic Star Wars group known as the Fandom Menace, following Ewan McGregor's video last week calling them out for racist messages to his co-star Moses Ingram. This is the same strategy used by the group in 2018 after the release of The Last Jedi. There is big money in attacking Star Wars and Lucasfilm, and this website, along with others in the Fandom Menace and their YouTube channels, like it and are despicable in their lust for that money.
What's that old saying
Clickbait
again?
10.
Yeah. Well, Star Wars officially changes Darth Vader. James Earl Jones replaced.
No.
Yeah. Last week's appearance of Darth Vader in Obi Wan Kenobi also brought the return of the voice of the legendary actor James Earl Jones. But rather than having the 91-year-old actor come in studio to voice the character, Lucasfilm used voice-changing technology to layer James Earl Jones over lines spoken by Hayden Christensen in order to give a sound more closely matching to the Vader experienced in the original trilogy. This technology was created by Reese Beecher and was also used to match Mark Hamill's voice in the Book of Boba Fett. Obi-Wan Kenobi accurately credited the voice of James Earl Jones in the show, and Inside the Magic is just trolling for clicks and reactions.
Like they always do.
What's new?
They become
level
it's like
9.
Ridiculous what they've done. All right. We got the robot.
Yes.
The robot.
11 seconds ago. Exclusive Top Gun
11
series.
seconds ago. It's been that way for 2 days. Yeah.
Top Gun series in development. Giant freaking robot is cashing in on the buzz around Top Gun Maverick, which we still haven't seen.
But we're seeing tonight.
Yes, we are. In an attempt to generate clicks. The site is claiming their infamous trusted and proven sources have the inside scoop on a new Top Gun television series in development. While this could definitely happen in the future, especially with Paramount Plus, my guess is it's just a rumor, and they're stirring up to get some page views. Until a site with a better reputation reports this, I wouldn't hold my breath. So a clickbait level of 7.
Up 7. All right.
Nice.
All right, Sam.
Yeah.
It's your turn, buddy.
It is my turn. Well, Star Wars Celebration 2022 gave us so much to talk about that we aren't even going to come close to covering it all in this segment, but we're going to take a stab at some of the biggest topics that we want to talk about, including Andor, Tales of the Jedi, Mando Season 3, and more.
Be on your guard. There are older and fouler things than orcs in the deep places of the world.
All right, then, keep your secrets.
Your coming to us is as the footsteps of doom.
There are many magic rings in this world, Bilbo Baggins, and none of them should be used lightly.
They announced it in like the closing ceremony.
No, they announced it there was a Star Wars Visions panel after we had to leave.
Which sucks.
We wanted to go to it,
But,
James Waugh was there. A bunch of people. Yeah.
Well, and it does seem to be taking a little bit of a different approach with more studios across different countries now tuning in instead of just Japan, UK, Ireland, all a bunch of
And
that
India.
stuff.
I think there's an Indian.
I'm super excited that we're getting more of a broad spectrum.
Yeah.
Also, with the logo, it's now red instead of blue, so I'm wondering if we're getting more of a dark side story. But even though we kind of got a
There's some
balance,
pretty dark stuff in
there was
there.
a balance, which is Star Wars is all about balance.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
But I'm very excited.
That's cool. Well, let's just get right into this and talk about the series that's coming out really soon.
Super soon. Isn't that
Super
awesome?
soon. Yeah, Andor.
I'm so excited.
We got a trailer, our first
did.
trailer,
Good trailer.
for this series. It's coming out. What is it? August of this year. So one thing that really stuck out to me when I was looking at this is the setting. It's a very dark, different setting that we've gotten before. There's a lot of spy espionage, not necessarily like James Bond.
No, but like it's a political kind of
like I'm trying to think of a movie where it's more political spy.
Argo.
Okay,
That's
sure.
just because that's literally what you were
That's
watching
literally
before
what I
we
was
started
watching.
Yeah,
recording.
but
But honestly, that is what it is.
Right.
It's a political spy thriller.
Yeah,
so.
and then you got also the political intrigue on the side with. We'll get to that. But Nate, do you like the feel that they're setting up for this series? That's sort of spy thriller. Does that excite you?
Really do. It's something we haven't seen in Star Wars, which I feel like is something I say about every new show. But
That's a good thing.
We're keep getting new stuff in a world that is so vast, and the galaxy is just so grand. We don't have to focus on the Skywalkers, and we can broaden our horizons when it comes to the genres and the characters and what we do in Star Wars. We got this little bit of this vibe from Rogue One when they get the beginning Andor scenes. We got this, espionage, more of James Bond-esque kind of espionage, not political. But in this one, we are getting that Senate and that feeling of Mon Mothma, and then we're getting the Andor with the kind of the dirty grittiness that he's doing. He's any means necessary for the rebellion. It's kind of what he's doing. The Saw Gerrera feel for this whole series, and I'm super excited because Andor, Diego Luna played a fantastic character as Cassian Andor in Rogue One, and cannot wait to see this character. And like how Diego Luna described and Tony Gilroy described, this is the version of Cassian we haven't seen before. It's a darker and more kind of on the gray.
It'll give us like what he means when he's talking about.
He's been on this fight since 6 years old.
He's done some stuff.
Yeah,
right.
And we're going to see that. Dad, you seemed pretty excited for more Mon Mothma stuff when that was revealed in the trailer. What do you think about seeing more of this political side of Star Wars, especially at this point in the timeline? We got a lot in the prequels, but we haven't gotten a lot in this transitional period.
Yeah, I love this because this is, the build up to that statement in A New Hope when they're in that Imperial briefing room with the other Moffs.
Yeah.
And, there's this, Tarkin comes in and he's basically saying the Senate has been dissolved.
Yep.
No, they're not going to have to try to rule through the Galactic Senate anymore. The Emperor is now fully in control. The governors are going to be guarding they're doing this. This is the period of time before that. And so the Emperor is still having to be the Emperor. He not in this Darth Sidious overbearing, dictator way, but in this, he's trying to rule through the Senate. He's trying to control through the Senate. And we even get a glimpse of that to some extent in the first episode of Obi Wan Kenobi.
We do with Bail and all that stuff.
Exactly. And so we're going to get more of that. And Mon Mothma has been leading the battle against the Emperor throughout this period of time. We're probably 14, 15 years she's been doing that. This is before she makes her big speech speech in Star Wars Rebels to try to unite all the rebels.
Yeah.
It has to flee from the Senate, flee from the Empire, which we get in that series. This is before that. She is the leader of the opposition. And there's those scenes in this trailer, which are just brief, but she's in there with all of the rich and the famous on Coruscant.
Yeah.
She's in with the people, but there's also these moments where she looks concerned. It's like the line over it in the trailer is, everybody's watching and that kind of thing. And so we've got all this happening at once. I'm excited to see the political side. I feel like we're going to get two different major storylines. I think we're going to get an Andor storyline. We're going to get a Mon Mothma storyline. I think they're going to be very separate in the first 12 episodes. And then going into the second half of this, those final 12 episodes, we're going to see those come together.
Yeah, but they're going to show different sides of the fight too. You're going to see the nitty gritty on the ground, boots on the ground kind of fight, and then the whole political side of things. Yeah,
and how those might blend together at some point.
Yeah,
they cross.
Yeah. What's interesting is in the panel where they revealed this, they also revealed that there's going to be 2 12-episode seasons.
Diego Luna didn't even know until Celebration.
Right.
None of them did, except Tony Gilroy and Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah,
really? Did you guys pick up on that?
Yeah, Diego Luna was like, "Well, I guess I'm going to be back for a second season."
I don't know. I kind of got the feeling that he just was afraid, like he didn't think they were going to reveal that.
No. I got the vibe that he just didn't know.
Oh, that's funny.
But they explained that the first season is going to tell essentially the first half of Andor's story, while the second season is going to lead right up to Rogue One, much like how Rogue One kind of led right up to Episode 4, which is interesting. But are you excited by the fact that we already know we're getting a second season? Does that give you I don't know, excited for the series, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially the way they described the way that the seasons are going to take place. So that, I think I alluded to it in the last statement that I was making about Mon Mothma. But this first season is 12 episodes that take place 5 years before Rogue One.
Right.
And they only lay out the events of 1 year of that period of time, that from 5 years to the 4th year, I guess. And then the final 12 episodes are laying out the remaining 4 years. So those are going to go into, hyperspace, really, to do this. I'm excited to see how that does. I think there's going to be a lot of character building, world building, setting up scenarios in this first season. And then it's just going to go crazy in those final, leading right up to the events of the rings of, what is it in Rogue One?
I know what you're talking about, but I just don't remember
the opening scenes where we see Diego, where we see in Rogue One.
Yeah. No, it might lead right up to that.
No, literally, I think they said they're going to lead up to that second season leads up to that moment.
That's cool.
And then we pick up in Rogue One. I'm excited about that.
Yep. And of course, right after we finish that final episode, we're gonna watch Rogue One. But I'm super excited for a second season. A little confused about how they're doing 12 episode seasons because that's good. That's a lot of content. And whether it can't be 30-minute episodes though, so it has to be full length.
I don't think so.
It has to be full length, 12 episodes, which is something they haven't done with Marvel or Star Wars yet.
That's a big risk.
It's a very big risk.
Piggybacking off of that and the fact that there's 2 seasons, do you think Disney expects the series to perform well because of that decision?
I do. They expect Star Wars to perform well. They're smart because of it. It will. Andor and Rogue One was huge. No matter what anybody says, Rogue One is just beloved by most of Star Wars.
James Gunn calls it the best of all this Disney era Star Wars.
And we always respect James Gunn's opinions. But no, I love Rogue One. It has a special place for me because of everything with Leia at the end and Carrie Fisher and the time that it came out. And I am super excited that Disney is confident in this show. They're confident that this character, who is more of an original character than what we've seen get a show before, other than Mandalorian, in this time period, it's very risky. But I am sure we're going to get so much amazing stuff in the show. It's a new feel. It's a new, darker, grittier vibe that haven't gotten a lot before. It doesn't feel like Star Wars, but we know it is set in that universe still, which is something that I've been looking forward to.
And I don't think we're going to get Jedi.
No,
I think it's going to be very much like Rogue One.
I'm okay with that,
which is fine with me.
This was also a trailer that felt more cinematic, and the visuals on it.
The visuals were stunning.
More like Rogue One than any of the other movies.
That's a good point.
Or the other series felt like movies.
Yeah.
So,
do we get K2SO? No, I think we have.
We have to get the origin of K2.
Yeah.
Maybe that's at the end of the first season. Then we see his growth in the second season.
Well, you guys remember all the way back in Celebration 2019, it was Diego Luna and Alan Tudyk.
Right.
When they were talking about this, they were there at Celebration, and then they've sort of pulled back on that. But I do believe that we're going to get that probably in the second 12 episodes.
Yeah,
you can't get to the events of Rogue One without having the story of K2SO.
Yeah, well, the series is coming out August 31st, so it's not far at all. Another big topic we want to cover is Tales of the Jedi.
Maybe Nate's going to get excited.
I got this article from StarWars.com, and I forgot to credit the other one, but that was from Polygon. But this one, we're going to see the return of some familiar faces. 2 to be, well, I guess 3 to be really specific, but Ahsoka, first off, I mean, obviously Filoni's involved, so you're going to have Ahsoka, right? But then a younger Jedi Dooku. Dad, you seemed pretty excited at the fact that we're going to be getting more Jedi Dooku along with Padawan Qui-Gon Jinn, for which Liam Neeson and Neeson's son will be returning.
That's so cool.
To reprise the role. We all love Dooku Jedi Lost.
Yes.
We've listened to it twice, I think. What are you hoping to see in these shorts that wasn't covered in the audio drama?
Wow, that's a great question. I haven't really thought of it from that perspective. I do think that the way that Filoni set this series up, because you got 3 episodes with Ahsoka and 3 episodes with Dooku, and both of them are going to leave the Jedi Order.
Right, yeah. Under very different circumstances.
Under different circumstances. Both of them are right about the Jedi Order.
Exactly.
True.
Just both of them handled it differently.
Both of them, one fell to the dark side over that, and one went to the stayed with the light side.
Yes.
With it. And I think that's what we're going to see. But I do want to see Jedi Master Dooku training Qui-Gon and teaching Qui-Gon about the Force, teaching Qui-Gon about his frustrations with the Jedi Order, because we have those.
To see that because Qui-Gon has a very different ideology in Episode 1 than the Council.
And a different view on the Force.
Yeah.
With this, and I want to see more of that. I hope we get to see some Rael Averross, the other Padawan that Dooku had.
Yeah.
With this, I want to see some Sifo Dyas.
Yes, absolutely.
And what was the name? The other Sifo Dyas' master. That was like that was into some really crazy.
She was
Force
stuff. like studied the dark side, but not in a
I
weird
want to
way.
see some of that.
Yes, give that to me, please.
Give me more of that.
Yes,
yeah.
give me.
Nate, I touched on this, but Filoni really loves his character.
Yeah, I do too.
Of Ahsoka. Why do you think it's important to Dave to tell the earlier parts of her story?
I think it's important to Mr. Filoni, to Dave,
Filoni.
to tell these stories, because he just loves the character and he wants to expand it as much as possible. And I think by doing this and telling her childhood and telling her Padawanship, and then even telling after Order 66 in that story, it allows him to figure out a better way to lead into the Ahsoka series, get more of an understanding of the character in and of himself. We learned how he came up with this idea of Tales of the Jedi, coming back from in between flights from Mando to Lucasfilm and all that stuff, and he would write short stories, and then that's how this series became to be. He 100% was writing short stories for Ahsoka and not Dooku, and then when the series got ordered, he was writing for Dooku, because that's just who he is.
Yeah.
And he always wanted to tell more stories of Ahsoka, because it's a character he came up with completely by himself. It's his child.
Essentially.
It's who he it's somebody he put his love, his time, everything into. And so being able to tell her story even more is just, it's something that he can put his passion into, and he can know he will appreciate what comes out of it.
Yeah. And speaking of Ahsoka, we actually got to see the first short in the series, which was titled Life and Death. And I'll briefly summarize spoilers, obviously, if...
I wouldn't get into too much detail with it, because nobody's seen this outside that panel room.
So don't get into spoilers. Just like...
I don't even know what I can say.
I can summarize it if you need me to.
Well, no, I don't want to give anything away, but...
You're going to see Ahsoka in her earliest, like her birth.
Yes, yeah,
You're
you
gonna
see
see
Ahsoka's
Ahsoka's
birth,
birth,
and I'll leave it there. And we see her mother, which interestingly, Janina Gavankar, I think I'm pronouncing that right. Gavankar. Reprised, well, not reprised, but returned to Star Wars since her role as Iden Versio.
And she also
Battlefront
revealed
2.
that she was the sweater Moncal
nostrils.
In episode 3 or chapter, what is it, chapter 11 or something?
Something
it was chapter 11 of The Mandalorian. Yeah.
So that was cool that she's back. She is a firecracker. She's got some energy to her. She's crazy.
She stepped in it at one point.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, we won't say what, but yeah.
We can't because
you know how Filoni is with his spoilers.
He was
she
not
spoiled
happy.
something, and you could tell they were both like, "Oh, wait, did this just happen?"
But without spoiling it,
works for me.
Overall thoughts on this first short and how it makes you feel for the remaining 5.
It was great. Anything Dave touches is gold for Star Wars. But no, it was fantastic. It felt how he made something so meaningful in 18 minutes is absolutely astounding.
Yeah.
It taught lessons that most shows can't do
in a season.
In 7 seasons. I'm looking at you, any CW show.
Oh, jeez.
I'm just saying, I felt more passion and more emotion from this short, and the how they told this story of like what the title is, which I think we can reveal the title.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
Life
fine.
and Death. That was the main point of this thing, and it was focusing, and you can tell that hits Ahsoka later on. That was a main thing of it, and she sees so much life. And then she sees so much death after Order 66, and she was close to the clones. She was there for the creation of the clones, and then she saw them turn, and many of them die. And so that's what it's all about. And you could tell he was wanting to give that feeling in this short, and I cannot wait to see what he does for the other episodes, especially the really cool looking Inquisitor in episode 3 of her, and then the Dooku ones.
Filoni said though that they were going to take a different approach to storytelling in this, and it was going to be more visual storytelling, not a lot of dialogue and stuff. And this was a very visual story, so that's interesting.
And it was great.
Yeah.
Oh, so
now Filoni said that yes, this short was on the lighter side, a little bit more lighthearted and cute. He might have even said, but some of the other ones, especially ones with dealing with Dooku, are a lot heavier. Does this make you more or less excited for the series, and what do you think we could see?
I'm excited about this because I think that the whole point of having 3 episodes with Ahsoka and 3 episodes with Dooku is to contrast the two.
Yep.
And so we need to see the light versus the dark, the life versus the death between the two of those. And I think that the darker the Dooku episodes get, make the light of the Ahsoka episodes much more powerful, and it tells a better story that way. So I'm very excited about that.
Up, the other will be going down, metaphorically. And this series is slated to release fall of this year, actually.
I'm so excited.
It'll be a very busy year for Star Wars.
Oh, yeah. Next up, Mando Season 3 got most of this information from IGN, so thank you for that. But overall, plot summary in a nutshell is Mando's going back to Mandalore to redeem himself for going against the Way, removing his helmet and such, which we kind of figured was going to happen at the end of
after Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, after Book of Boba Fett and all that. But Nathan, you mentioned that you were glad they went this direction with the story. Could you explain why you thought that?
Okay, the first 2 seasons of Mandalorian are fantastic, but they are focused on Grogu more than anything. But this is going back to the Mandalorian religion, the creed, the planet, the fall and the siege of Mandalore, and even the creed and the difference between the creed and that covert and Bo-Katan and what she thinks the Mandalore is supposed to be. And I'm super excited to see Mandalorian taking this journey, this Lord of the Rings-esque journey back to this desolated planet to redeem himself in this way. And he's
the
going
ultimate
by
hero's journey,
any means necessary to redeem himself in the armor and in the covert's eyes. So I'm super excited for it. I cannot wait. It's going to be so good. And we got Grogu's little helmet.
Dad?
I'm excited to see anything about understanding Mandalore, and we've been predicting since the end of season 2 that the way this goes is that it's going to be Bo-Katan versus Din Djarin, and not just the two of them as individuals against each other in a struggle for the Darksaber, but the two ideologies that each of them represents. You've got old school Mandalore with Clan Kryze and all that, and then you have, and also Death Watch. You know, she's Death Watch.
Yeah, there is Death Watch.
We saw Death Watch in the trailer and stuff.
And then you have Din and this very cult. I mean, they're a cult.
Yeah,
this religious side of it, and those two ideas conflicting with each other. We saw it touched on in season 2. We're going to see that the primary storyline, I believe, in season 3.
Yeah. You kind of mentioned, you just mentioned this, but Bo-Katan looks to be the opposing force to this. Nate, do you like this dynamic that we're going to be getting?
I do. I think that it's not going to be, I don't think she's going to be a villain. I don't think that she's going to be outright bad guy. I think she's just going to be an opposing force.
She's the antagonist.
She's going to be a force against him, but I don't think she'll be attacking him outright.
No.
Because we saw her protecting Baby Yoda in some of the shots from the trailer. And I mean, she wouldn't do that if she was a villain. So I think she's just going to be driving against him, maybe hindering his process a little bit, but I don't think she's going to be an absolute bad guy.
Is this it, or do you think there's going to be a larger threat to this series, though?
I think there has to be a larger threat, especially with Moff Gideon, and the cloner is back, and that's interesting to see. Now he's working for the Rebellion. I'm wondering how that's going to play into everything. So
the Empire is still out there, and Moff Gideon he's
angry.
Well, he's been captured. He's been turned over to the Rebellion, but
so is the cloner, and I'm sure that's going to play into.
But something else is going to happen in this,
sure. Well, that's slated for release in February 2023. So, then we got to look at Bad Batch season 2. Got a trailer for that, which was released worldwide. Just a quick initial thoughts for this season.
It looks good. I'm excited for it, of course, but again, I don't have the reason of why this show needed to get made, and I'm still not seeing that. First season did not give me a remotely anywhere to see that, and now I'm wondering even more why we need even a second season than tell the story of the Bad Batch on some missions.
I do think that we're going to get that, though, and I think that the way they closed out the first season and going into this season, I think we're going to see more to do with Omega, and I think it's got to do with cloning, and I think that we've got
clones like Cody even questioning.
And we are getting Cody in this one,
and we're getting Palpatine in this and everything. So I
think we've got to see more of the story of the rise of the Empire. I think that's what they're trying to tell with this series, and I think we're going to get more of that, and it's going to be good. And I like the fact that they have moved in this season. The Bad Batch are no longer sort of trying to pretend to feel like they're the Republic commandos that they were, whatever they were. They've fully embraced the fact that they're no longer part of the Empire, the Republic, or anything like that. So I think that's going to be an interesting story.
That's slated to release fall of this year, so even more content to look forward to. And then we got some surprise looks at Ahsoka. Nathan, run away with it. Go. Share all your thoughts.
There wasn't much in this little short trailer that Dave gave us. He said there wasn't going to be, since 3 weeks of filming doesn't give you a lot. But there is so much in this trailer that we did get.
There was a lot in the trailer.
we got Hera and Ahsoka on the same ship together, which is huge because we don't know who's playing Hera in live action still.
I think it's going to be I can't remember her name right now.
Ewan McGregor's wife?
I think it's going to be her.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. She would probably play a fantastic Hera, but I'm so excited about that. We got a little Chopper on the stage, which means that he's going to be in it as well.
Sure.
It's the whole Ghost crew will be in this. I don't know about Zeb.
He's on.
The other homeworld.
He's with Callus.
He's with Callus right now. So we did get a little, a small child's hand trying to move a cup with the Force, which isn't huge unless you address the fact that that's most likely Jason Syndulla.
Or Jason,
Which, that's huge. Which means we're going to be getting Ahsoka training Jason Syndulla. Which is
I had not connected that.
Absolutely insane. Which then we might get Ezra training Jason, which would be
Wow, imagine that.
Imagine
Kanan trains Ezra trains Jason.
I would die. That would be so amazing. And then the trailer, goes for a little bit more. We see a couple more shots and then the logo. And I'm like, well, that was a great trailer. I was super excited. And then they hit you with this gut punch of Sabine walking to the mural. And I'm freaking out because then they bring out the actress for Sabine on stage.
Yeah, and we talked about that on our last episode, but this was definitely a lot of fun to really have a chance to process.
It was crazy. I cannot wait. This is Rebels Part 2.
Yeah, it's Rebels Season 5.
In live action.
And then we got that little tease in the Tales of the Jedi panel with Dave, somebody asked, where's Ezra Bridger? And he says, the cool thing is, I know.
Yeah. Which is indication. But
it's crazy.
Yeah, that series is set to release sometime in 2023. Probably, I'm going to guess fall.
Not soon enough.
Yeah, that's true. But there's just so much to look forward to in Star Wars towards the end of this year and in 2023. It'll definitely give us plenty to discuss on this show, and it's definitely a great time to be a Star Wars fan.
Fantastic. Yeah, and we are an hour into this show when you got 2 more segments to go. All right.
I'll try to do fast.
Yeah,
mine will be fast.
We got Star Wars to talk about. We talk Star Wars.
We love our Star Wars on this show. All right. Movie moments. Top Gun Maverick topped the box office again last weekend, but it will undoubtedly hit its brakes so the dinosaurs can fly right by. Did you guys see that?
This would be a weird movie.
That would be a cool movie.
I think it would be cool too.
I thought Fast and Furious and Jurassic World were weird, but
that's up next on Movie Moments.
At last we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi. At last we will have revenge.
One new release this weekend, Jurassic World Dominion. It is about 4 years after the destruction of Isla Nublar. Yep. Dinosaurs now live and hunt alongside humans all over the world. This fragile balance will reshape the future and determine once and for all whether human beings are to remain the apex predators on a planet they now share with the history's most fearsome creatures in a new era. The director is Colin Trevorrow, the would-be Star Wars director. The cast is Chris Pratt, Bryce Dallas Howard, Laura Dern, Sam Neill, and Jeff Goldblum, reuniting. Studio's Universal, and it is rated PG-13 for intense sequences of action, some violence, and language. Going, yes.
Friday night. Already got tickets.
I'm super excited. For trailers this week, The Menu. Haven't heard of this one. Didn't watch the trailer. Just didn't take time.
Looks interesting, though.
I watched like a clip, but it seems like something.
It's like kind of a psychological thriller type thing.
Yeah, I'm interested in it. Pinocchio, watch this trailer. Looks like Pinocchio. So
yeah, pretty much.
You get in the same story you got 60 different times in different iterations. So this one's just live action. And Tom Hanks is playing Geppetto, so that might actually be good. But box office projections.
Because we're recording
a little early. Top Gun Maverick with 74.7 million domestic. That's a lot. 280 million total in 2 weeks.
And as of recording, they've already announced it's going to clear 300 million.
Dang. This movie was insanely popular, which is great.
I can't wait to see it tonight.
Yes, I know. It's crazy. Not seeing it tonight.
Well,
when you're listening,
you
keep jumping back and forth.
It's confusing.
We don't have the numbers, but we're seeing it tonight. Like you're going to get
exactly.
These
You're confusing me. Doctor Strange 2, 9 million domestic, a little strong. Not strong enough for a Marvel movie. 388 million total. And the Bob's Burger movie. Yikes. 5 million domestic and 23 million total in its second
better
weekend.
Than Morbius.
No, actually, sadly.
And an honorable mention to Morbius returning to theaters and getting $85,000.
Let's go. And you could throw in Jurassic World there because they actually placed second technically in these box office predictions with 58 million.
Well, that's worldwide. These are domestic. So,
I mean, yeah. For this is gonna be this is mine. Yes, I'm ready. Hey, we gotta go. Yes, Dark Crisis. DC Comics is ending, or is it? Dark Crisis is coming up, and it is going to be insanely important to the future of DC Comics. The question is, though, will it pay off the 30-year wait?
Have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight?
Yeah, I can fly.
I'm here to fight for truth and justice in the American way.
The people in this room, which one is A, wearing a spangly outfit, and B, not of use?
There's only one God, man. And I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like that.
That man has no limits.
finish Invincible?
I have no idea.
No, I need an answer.
I don't know.
You've had enough time.
I know. I also have a life.
Wait. No. You make time.
All right. Anyway, let's talk about these other comics that Invincible.
Yes. The end and beginning of DC Comics. Well, Dark Crisis starts soon, and it is going to change DC Comics forever-ish.
What do you mean by that?
When it comes to this event, there are a few things that you need to know.
Are you going to fill us in?
I'm going to fill y'all
Thanks,
in. The first is that this is affecting the main continuity of DC Comics. Starting 30 years ago with Crisis on Infinite Earths, this story has been in the making for a very long time. Kind of taking influence from Death of the Superman as well. Or Death of Superman.
Gosh,
Pariah.
that long? God, I feel old today. All right.
Pariah from Crisis on Infinite Earths is the main villain of this event and the one who killed the Justice League in Death of the Justice League. And his goal is to merge his Multiverse 2, with the current one to destroy both, kind of. Mainly, he wants to replace the Multiverse 1, the one that, the main continuity is, with his by destroying Earth Prime. Now, what happens if you destroy Earth Prime in a multiverse is everything collapses around it, since everything spawned from that one Earth.
Okay, that makes sense. Question.
Yes.
So there are multiple universes.
Yes.
But now there are multiple multiverses?
Yes, that's where the Omniverse comes into play.
The thing that contains like every story ever.
Yes. So say you have...
Or you could have Star Wars in that.
Yes, you could have Star Wars in it. You could have Marvel in it. You could also have any of the different stories that don't take place in the main continuity in it. There's a bunch of multiverses.
That would be in a multiverse, though.
Yes. No-ish. It's complicated. Wow, but he's in multiverse.
Theoretical
so
physics,
any other questions before I move on?
No, that's plenty. That one question melts in my mind.
All right. Let's go.
So Pariah will be using all of the worst villains in the DC universe to conquer this multiverse, including Darkseid. Now, Pariah put them under his control, and they can't even break free, even if they wanted to. In Justice League number 75, The Death of the Justice League, Darkseid broke free from Pariah's control for just a second, and he told the Justice League to run. And even Darkseid is afraid of him.
That's bad.
Now, this is going to be a big event. Now, coming from people who don't read DC Comics, does this event feel important to you at all, or just another thing that they'll retcon within a week?
It feels pretty substantial to me if Darkseid's already scared of it, and the fact that they're going to be merging multiverses. I do feel like it is kind of not a trope, but it is common for comics to have these huge events every so often, or even stories to have these events every so often. But I think it's good. When was the last Crisis?
The last Crisis was a while ago. I guess you could consider the last Crisis to be Death Metal, Dark Knight's Death Metal. It wasn't an official Crisis, but it had the same ramifications as a Crisis. It changed the continuity of that line. So
when was that?
That was 3 years ago.
Okay. But what about the last official Crisis?
The last official Crisis was Infinite Crisis, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. And that was about 6 or 7 years ago. So
no, I think it's very exciting, especially for fans who've been following the comics, because it is a culmination. And then it's also, which I'm sure you're going to touch on this, but it's a way for them to kind of start fresh.
Yes.
Yeah. Is that the purpose of a Crisis?
It is a way to start fresh. It always has been. Like Final Crisis changed it from, being into introducing the New 52 universe or introducing the DC Rebirth. It is normally a way for them to just restart or kind of add more life to it instead of just having another monthly event happen or monthly issue like what they did in the 80s. So it does change things up.
Okay, cool.
So now why I say this is the end and beginning is because after this, the whole DC Comics main continuity could be different. And is going to be different. We have no Batman, no Superman, and no Wonder Woman in this universe now. They will still get monthly books and stories, just not in the main continuity, like the upcoming Detective Comics arc set as an opera, a gothic opera, which I
like
am
Phantom of the Opera,
excited.
but for Batman.
Ish. I'm super excited for that one. I'm gonna pick it up. It looks so good. But others will actually be taking up the mantle, and we're not quite sure who those people will be.
So it's kind of like Endgame, with Captain and Iron Man and all of them going away. Okay.
So
you're getting a new Captain America with Sam Wilson kind of thing.
You're getting a new Batman. You're getting a new Superman. You're getting a new Wonder Woman.
Who's the new Batman?
Kate Bishop taking over Hawkeye's role. These types of things happening.
We don't know who the new Justice League is going to be or who's going to be taking up all those
Jane
mantles.
Foster becoming Thor.
I'm going to ask y'all, who do y'all think should take up the mantle of the Trinity of Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman?
I have no clue.
Okay, well, I could put a vote in for Batman. I think it should be. Oh my gosh, the name just escaped me.
Which one?
His Damian.
You think it should be Damian?
I think it should be Damian if he survives. I don't know how that works. Is he still Robin at this point?
No, he's Robin, but he left Batman's wing.
Okay, I think he becomes Batman. I think that'd be a good Batman. For Superman, I don't.
It's going to be
John Kent. He's already the new Superman.
Okay,
which is like he's called the new Superman. So
I don't know enough about Wonder Woman to
I think it's going to be
sort of vote.
Nubia, since she was just kind of commemorated in her own event recently.
Who's she?
She's just Wonder Woman, basically. There's not much about her. I don't know.
All right.
I don't read Wonder Woman. I don't think she's a super interesting character. She's not as cool as Batman. But
this is true.
Well, I'm definitely going to pick up this event if I can get to the store. I can't wait to see what happens and how they win against Pariah and his dark army and the Great Darkness and so much stuff. I can't wait to see it.
Awesome. Good job, Baby Nate. That was fast, too. Thank you for pulling that off for our listeners' help.
Yes.
Right.
Always happy to help.
We got to finish this thing up. So anything else you guys want to talk about?
Anything else?
Yeah, Ms. Marvel star challenges MCU being designated as Earth 616. This is a quote from Iman Vellani, Ms. Marvel. No, I mean, I'd like to say the comics are 616. I don't believe that the MCU is 616. As much as Kevin Feige can make us think it's 616, it's 199999. I've actually heard this. I've heard that the MCU is its own Earth, so it was a little confusing that they made it 616 because that is the comics, but frankly I don't care. I think it's cool.
So I think it's cool that a teenage star that hasn't even had her show premiere yet just calling out Kevin Feige.
Yeah, no, I love it.
Yeah,
that's great.
She's very brave. DC Studio Insider says Henry Cavill's Superman needed for DCEU revival.
Thoughts?
He is. Honestly, I think that he's played the best Superman we've gotten so far, the most accurate. And of course, people are going to get frustrated at me for Christopher Reeve, which Christopher Reeve did great. But most of that's just nostalgia, like Michael Keaton and his Batman. I think that Henry Cavill just did an amazing job. And I always say that. And it's always super controversial that I say that.
Just alienated like 98% of the dads listening to this show right now.
Michael Keaton did a fine movie, but he's not a good Batman. It's just nostalgia for y'all. Get over yourselves. I'm just going to say it.
We're going to get canceled.
Iman Vellani's calling out Kevin Feige, and you're calling out every dad in America right now.
I'm just saying, I've read so many comics, and y'all are wrong if you say he's a great Batman.
I mean, you have to take his opinion. Michael Uslan said he knows.
I'm just
Nathan
kidding,
knows stuff. So
I don't even know if Michael Uslan would like that.
That's true.
All right, John Kasdan, one of the writers of Solo: A Star Wars Story, teases Kira's future in the Mandalorian timeline. He said that he's had conversations with Jon Favreau, and he thinks that the story will continue. That's awesome.
Interesting.
At some point, that was a lot.
That was a long episode.
A lot of Star Wars.
A lot of Star Wars.
It's going to be a lot more Star Wars going forward because there's a lot of Star Wars to talk about.
There is.
Which is fine with us. But thank you for listening. Thanks for tuning in and listening to Tatooine Sons, a pop culture podcast.
If you had a good time listening, it would be awesome if you could share this with your friends.
Yeah, and remember that the show, it's only a small part of the Tatooine Sons world, so be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter to get in on all of the action, and you can keep up to date with everything we've got going on at TatooineSons.com.
That's right. Don't forget to follow the show on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss our next episode. Give us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever podcast app you prefer. Please give us a review. We have not gotten reviews in a very long time.
It's very sad.
Makes us sad, but that's okay. We still love you, and we know you love us. Right? All right. Anything else that you guys would like to say?
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you, always.
This party's over.
I like that Wookiee.
Don't get technical with me.
Joy, please.
Yep, yep.